made it to the top 3. And number 3 here is an album from a band you're all familiar with, definitely. Almost didn't even include it on my list because some may argue it's not actually their first album, but the band considers it their first album, and their album they released before this one they consider a demo, which, if it's true, it's probably the greatest demo of all time, because that you'll see what I'm talking about. Released in 1999 on Roadrunner Records. Yep, debut album from Slipknot. I have it on CD somewhere. I don't know where it is. Probably in my closet. I don't feel like digging through to find it. But man, I've listened to this album 8 quadrillion times. Pretty much know every moment of this album by heart. Just killer album. I mean, and again, like I mentioned before, you know, Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat was their demo album. It feels like their first album. I mean, that is a really good demo album, if that is really a demo. And so that's why I was debating on whether or not I really should include it. But, you know, hey, if the band says it's the debut, if Wikipedia says it's the debut, I'll count it for this. Just looking at the album artwork, I mean, when has an album cover ever said more like, you know, we're here, take this motherfucker, you know, this is just, it's like something out of a nightmare. And the unabashed aggression of this album is just not like any other album I had heard. There are certainly heavier albums than this, but probably not in the nu metal genre. I mean, this is basically taking, you know, whereas a lot of nu metal bands kind of combine hip hop and I guess more like, you know, alternative hard rock or maybe groove metal or something like that, or heavy metal. These guys were like hip hop and death metal combined, which was very intense. Obviously opens up with Sick, which I think was originally just called Slipknot, basically, but super heavy way to kick things off. And Eyeless is even heavier, with just these, you know, tortured vocals from Corey Taylor, crazy guitar riffs, Sid Wilson with the weird turntable effects, just the icing on the cake. I remember, you know, my mom hearing the song Eyeless for the first time and being like, oh my god, Andy, how could you listen to that? You know, it's one of those albums for sure. Wait and Bleed was the first song I ever heard from Slipknot, if I'm not mistaken, when I was in like elementary school, and even back then I loved that song. For some reason, Wait and Bleed was just a fascinating metal song, you know. Very interesting drum beats from Joey Jordison, who's shredding like a motherfucker on this whole album. Surfacing is, you know, the big heavy staple from the album, I guess, in a way, with its just, you know, menacing, you know, fuck you all lyrics, which I convinced my band in high school to do a cover of, although they were pretty reluctant to do it. But it was fun. Spit It Out, another big, you know, heavy staple from the album, with that, you know, The Shining themed music video, which fits perfectly. Really cool riffs. Corey Taylor's kind of like rapping the verses, but in a way that doesn't sound like distasteful or anything. At least I don't think so. Tattered and Torn, maybe a little bit ridiculous with that, you know, kill me, you know, intro, but definitely a very cool, fucked up kind of song, with a slow build, almost bolero style build into this really sick, heavy ending. And then depending on which version of the album you have, this is where the track listing will differ a little bit. The original version had the song Purity, which is an amazing song, one of the best songs on the album. They had to take it down because of legal issues with the subject matter of the song being based on, I think, a real girl who was, I think, buried alive. Depending on which, I mean, it's a great song, but if you have the more common version of the album, which has the song Me Inside, I still think that is a really underrated song. Honestly, that song kicks ass. The super fast double pedal drumming from Joey Jordison, cool melodies. I think some of Corey Taylor's most impressive melodic lines on Me Inside. And then you have Liberate, another fan favorite, with just super heavy, bouncy riffs. Sid Wilson doing his cool turntable stuff with like a wah pedal effect, which I don't think anybody had ever done before. It's a very innovative sounding track with Corey Taylor just screaming and crying at the end of it like he's losing his shit. Is so intense. Prosthetics is one of my favorites on the album. Just sends chills up my spine every time. Portraying I guess the point of view of like a serial killer who realizes what they've done and are like, oh my god, what have I done, kind of moment. Really fascinating song, just so heavy, kind of long too. It's like 5 minutes long. Crazy drumming from Joey Jordison on it with that floor tom double bass pedal thing he's doing in the after kind of like the hook or whatever, and the samples from Craig and Sid, just so wild. Then the song No Life, always been one of my favorites. Got such a cool, bouncy drum pattern that I always loved playing, and I was impressed by friends with playing that one on the drums. Diluted's another really heavy one, just so many kick-ass riffs. Only One has got some really cool drumming again, like a drum break in the middle of it. And then the closing track, Scissors, is kind of this long, really long, just like super fucked up, just kind of hard to explain it, kind of like Tattered and Torn, where it's just kind of got that like, I'm done with everything emo sound, but definitely a very epic, bombastic way to close out the album. And then it's also got a couple bonus tracks. There's a hidden track at the end of the album called Eeyore that's super heavy, fast blast beat drumming. Get This was another bonus track. Again, super heavy, fast drumming all over it. Guitar work is great. All the musicianship's great. Solid album, start to finish. Really a perfect album. So there it is, number 3, Slipknot.